Good afternoon, everyone. Fast approaching 3 o'clock hour, a Thursday edition of On Cue, coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the SR 1029 FM The Game studios. As always, I am your host, Rich Quinones. We got about an hour plus to play with. Hope everyone had a wonderful Sports Wednesday, your 11th of February, as we welcome in you to a 12th of February on this Thursday, 2026. Get in on the conversation. Very easy to do. You can follow me on multiple platforms. Download the AUDACY app. Check out Coastal Sports Digital Network, SR 1029 FM The Game, flagship station for On Cue, as well as every other platform that's probably known to mankind that is out there, including Rumble, Kicks, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, my YouTube channel. And don't forget, get social with me. Very easy to do on this Thursday at Rich Q on Q on X, IG, TikTok, Rich Q on a mic. We're powered by our wonderful friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, 3 Brooks Bourbon, and Played Against Sports. Very busy Thursday. NFL, we will dive into that around 4:30-ish. A lot of NBA to get into. We'll mix in a little NCAA with some news coming down as well. But I got to start with the NBA because last night, what an absolutely disgraceful performance put on by your Philadelphia 76ers, who are taking on a Knicks team that should have been friggin' tired with all these overtime games. I understand Embiid's not playing last night, but oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? The Philadelphia 76ers did not even show up last night and were thoroughly humiliated, absolutely woodshed embarrassed, a buck 38 to 89. What are you doing, Philadelphia? That was pretty much one of the worst losses in franchise history. I mean, you're losing by 50 friggin' points in an NBA game. 50 points. They no-showed. They no-showed in the second quarter. They played no defense in the third, and they no-showed in the fourth. That's as embarrassing as a loss that you can have if you're a Philadelphia 76ers fan. Absolutely just horrible, horrible, despicable, disgraceful. We're going to get into it because once again, you see that the 76ers have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And speaking of which, keeping of the theme of the NBA, how about the beard? How about James Harden, who decided to pretty much come out and say the quiet stuff out loud when we talk about, and we talk about it a lot on these airwaves. We talk about it a lot on this show in the world of sports. Loyalty. Loyalty. And Harden basically comes out and says, you know what? Loyalty be damned. The hell with loyalty. Loyalty is overrated. Loyalty is overrated. And it's funny because I want to throw this out. When we think about sports, right? And as fans, we are loyal to a fault. Are we not? We are loyal to a fault. Why? Because no matter what our team does, we live and die by the team. We watch the games. We buy tickets. We go to the games. We'll order food on a Sunday. We'll watch the Super Bowl. We'll go to opening day. We'll go to hoops games. We'll go to hockey games. We'll put gas in the car. We'll pay for tolls. We'll drive the kids all over the place and the family and the friends, and we'll buy tickets and PSLs. Why? Because we're fans and we're fanatical. And no matter what, as bad as our teams can be at times, we are loyal. We are almost loyal as a fault. I mean, it gets bad sometimes that fans are just so locked into what their franchises are doing. And then to have a player who has made a absolutely obscene amount of money in his career in James Harden, a guy who is the exact opposite of a team player. Here's a player in James Harden who is generated over $411 million in earnings. In earnings. Okay? His net worth is like $250 million. Talk about all those major contracts he's had, the Rockets, the Nets, the Sixers, the Clippers, all these endorsement deals with Adidas. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. I mean, James Harden ain't starving. Okay? James Harden is not starving. James Harden says, you know what? Loyalty, be damned. Loyalty, it's overrated. Loyalty, forget about it. And you know what's interesting about what James Harden is saying and the fact that he explains why loyalty in the NBA is overrated, because he also adds it's a business at the end of the day. And here's something I can't believe I'm actually going to say. I can't believe I'm actually going to say this. From the business standpoint, I get it. I get it because it is. It really is. Sports are no longer sports. Sports are no longer fun. We're not kids. We're not having these fantasies about our sports teams. It's all about the bottom line. And James Harden was a player who was introduced to the business of the NBA when he was 22, 23. Think about this. James Harden helped OKC go to the NBA Finals. Then he was traded to the Rockets because he couldn't agree on a new contract with OKC. So obviously, that experience early on in his career, early on as a young man that is about to make millions of dollars, it had a lasting impression and impact on his perspective as it basically relates to changing teams. Now, here's the problem I have. I'm pushing back a little bit with half of that thought, said him in a comment. He's been traded 5 times in his career. Everywhere he's gone, he's never won. Everywhere he's gone, teams actually become better because they get rid of the friggin' headache. Now, he's a Hall of Fame player. I'm not even disputing James Harden on the floor. So he says, quote, the whole loyalty thing, I think it's overrated. I think this is a business at the end of the day. There's a lot of money involved and a lot of decisions that have to be made. So we understand in any walk of life, if you are not producing, eventually you will be out of a job. We know that. It doesn't matter what you do. It does not matter what you do. In any line of work, you need to produce, you need to clock in, you need to clock out. You produce, that in turn helps the business what? Bring in revenue, make money. Then all of a sudden it's worth more. So we understand that. But I also think in some of these cases that James Harden is speaking of which, James Harden forced his way out of several different organizations. He did. You can't even sugarcoat that. So it got me thinking when we're talking about sports and something James Harden says, is it about the rings? Is it about relationships? Is it about the almighty dollar? Because we know ultimately there's no loyalty in life. Like that's the lot. That's where we have to hang our hat. That's the lot in life. There's no loyalty. You might be lucky enough. You might be lucky enough to have 3, 4, 5 good friends who will go to bat for you. That's all you need in this world. You might have 1 or 2 really close family members because the rest, everyone's a hater. Everyone's going to criticize you. Everyone's going to break you down. Everyone's going to ridicule you. You know, you got strangers that are your backers and you got family and friends that are haters. So maybe there's something to be said about what James Harden said at the end of the day. But I find it interesting, how much stock do I take away from hearing it from a guy that's forced his hand with other organizations, and he's made a ton of money. A ton of money. And I get it. It works both ways. And there's always a flip side. There's always 2 sides to every story. We all know that. There's always 2 sides to every story. But it got me thinking. It really did. It got me thinking about loyalty and sports. And are we too critical of players when they decide to take the money and leave? Are we not as critical? Should we be a little more critical of ownership and how they handle certain things and letting players walk, not letting players walk? Look, the NBA, we talked about this yesterday. The NBA is in trouble. The NBA has issues. I'm telling you right now, the NBA has issues. You know it, and I know it. The ratings are down. Viewership is down. They can't figure out who to cater to. The All-Star Weekend, you got to scrub it. You got to scrap it. It's bad. It really is. You got the tanking. You had the gambling stuff going on with Porter and Billups and the like, right? And all these dominoes. We talk about Giannis and his relationship with the betting platform in the app that the NBA is basically glossing over. You got Adam Silver that looks like a deer in friggin' headlights. But now you have a marquee player, and James Harden is still a marquee player. He is. He's not as productive as he once was, but you still know at 35, 36, the beard is still the beard. He's not the beard when he was 30 or 28 or 29. He's not going to pump up 35. He's going to give you that moment here and then. But here's a player, though, OKC, Houston. Remember the Nets? The Sixers, not going to work out. Not going to work out with the Nets. Here we go, Clippers, not going to work out. Now with Cleveland. I mean, if you're a Cavs fan, you got to be thinking to yourself, what the hell? I mean, it was crazy. His first season with the Rockets, if you think about James Harden, the young James Harden with those young OKC teams, James Harden niched and carved out his Hall of Fame career with Houston. And everyone remembers, I mean, James Harden was a phenomenal scorer. His first 6-7 seasons in Houston, he led the league in scoring 3 times, assist once. He was like, all world, right? MVP back in 2018. A couple trips to Western Conference Finals. But obviously the knock was always what? Fourth quarter, 3 of 18, game 7, can't get it done. He's also the one that requested a trade at the beginning of 2021. Let's not forget about that. He requested a trade to the Nets, and that blew up. Then he got traded to the Sixers, and that blew up. Then he got traded to the Clippers, and oh, by the way, that blew up. And now he's with Cleveland. Maybe he's on to something. Maybe he is. Maybe the fans, maybe ownerships, maybe we do overlook the player. Maybe we do at the end of the day. We're not as loyal. I think fans are loyal to a fault. I think ownerships and franchises, sometimes it is about the bottom line. But the player too, I think there has to be some sense of loyalty. I do. I really do. I think there has to be some sense of loyalty. And again, ultimately, not everyone's going to agree with that. And that's okay. Not everyone's going to agree with that. We know what makes the world go round and round. It's money. And as I mentioned, James Harden has made $411 million in his career. Folks, he ain't starving. He's good to go. He's good to go. So when we talk about, some of these players and they're forcing their hand and they're forcing their way out, and listen, the fact that he's arguing players should do what's best for them, just like teams do, I understand. He's saying the quiet part out loud. And everyone's going to take it and they're going to run with it. And probably a lot of you guys think I was going to come on today and I would have just crushed him on it. But I get what he's saying. I don't 100% agree with it, but it makes for an interesting conversation and debate. You're talking about a Hall of Fame player. And I think when it's all said and done, James Harden will be, if not already, one of the most polarizing figures the NBA has ever seen. And again, this is not about the accolades. This is not about the body of work or the resume. I mean, James Harden is a Hall of Famer. Go argue with somebody else. He's 9th all-time scoring, and he's still putting up solid numbers at year 17. But he's also been a vagabond. Wherever he's laid his hat for that moment, that's been his home. And he's had multiple homes in 17 years. Multiple. So I think it stems back to what transpired in Houston. I also think, the whole situation with Morey calling him a snake. I think all that's coming to light. And it's an interesting quote. At the end of the day, we all look at it as it's basketball and the whole quote unquote loyalty thing. I think it's overrated. I think this is a business. At the end of the day, it's a lot of money involved, a lot of decisions that have to be made. But it's also both ends of the spectrum. Remember, there is a flip side to that coin. And that comment kind of gives you a little glimpse into pretty much what prompted or what was the catalyst for James Harden to decide, I don't want to be with Los Angeles anymore. Get me the hell out of here. Now, remember, there's 2 schools of thought. He wanted to remain in LA. Once the Clippers basically said, we're not going to give you an extension, That's when the focus turned to, I don't want to be here. And it was the worst kept secret because they decided we need to start to pivot towards younger players. And now you've got the player, the franchise, and everyone wants something different. So we got to split you down the middle. You want to be here? We're not going to extend you. Well, what's the next best thing? We're going to trade you. And this now enables him to get another contract extension. like from a business standpoint, double Hall of Famer. But I definitely want to get your thoughts on that. Is it about loyalty in sports? Is it about the money? Is it about the rings, the relationships? Because now, man, these players, they are jumping left to right. They're jumping all over the place. Loyalty be damned. And I will say this too. There are some organizations in sports, and we see it a lot in football, where they do give up on a player. They're not as loyal because the player is young. Maybe they're green. Maybe they don't produce. Giving up and being loyal are two different things. It's just the way I look at it. Giving up and being loyal, they're two different things. So you really have to kind of, peel back the curtain a little bit when you're talking about this. It's not like, again, when the coach is leaving college and then the player gets that one shot to follow, the NIL, the coming in, the coming out. It's a totally different animal. That's open up another conversation for another day for Pandora's box. But when you're talking about the NBA, you're talking about the money that these players are making, max contracts. Now we're adding in the load management where they have a issue with their shin. I mean, again, I said this yesterday. They're not flying friggin' coach. They're not flying friggin' Spirit. They're not staying at a motel where the chain locks from the outside or they got a Jimmy the Lock from the inside. They're not. I mean, come on. These guys are staying at the best. They can have their masseuse, their doctor, their therapist, their, health expert, their nutritionist. They can go with them anytime they want. So the load management has hurt the product. So when Harden says what he says, well, we got to factor in everything here. Maybe it's because I get tired of a player only playing 30, 40 games, playing when they want to play. Oh, by the way, not showing up in the fourth quarter in the big spot in a game 7. So it goes on and on and on. So we'll dive into that as well. We got a lot of comments coming in. Don't forget, first portion of the show from our good friends over at Play It Again Sports, 2 locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel, Three Brooks Bourbon. Also want to welcome in Coastal Sports C2C Radio, Coastal Sports Digital Network. You can capture us on the AUDACY app, SR 1029. FM the game. A lot of comments coming in. We're going to get to them on the other side. Costco's going to join us for a couple minutes. We'll talk a little college hoops, March Madness right around the corner. Also, some breaking news coming down within NCAA college football. We will dive into that. 18 past the 3 o'clock hour. Jonathan Marshall on the NBA in the 4 o'clock hour. We got a nice little 5-pack accused picks as well, powered by our wonderful friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Check out the show notes, 20% off. We'll get you guys locked in with some savings on that. Busy show. A lot of comments coming in on the YouTube channel, on Kicks, Rumble, and of course X. We will read them off in a couple moments. As I mentioned, Costco is going to join us in about 2. Quick timeout. We will come back on the other side. All right, welcome back, everyone. 13 past 3 o'clock hour, a Thursday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. By the way, not a surprise. How about this? Castellanos, stay away. We're releasing you. Not bad. 20 million released by the Phillies. Not a shock. So we go from one Nick to another Nick, our good friend from On 3, Nick Costco, kind enough to join us for a couple moments. It's been a minute. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, Rich. Obviously, maybe it seems like a disastrous time for Philly sports outside of the Eagles since the season's over, and but staying busy. A lot of college wrestling, high school basketball is the busiest time of the year for me on air from basically till now, from until the end of not the end of March, but about midway through March. So it's gonna be a nice stretch over the next couple of weeks for me, and we gotta love staying busy. It's the best time of the year.
Hey, listen, busy is always a good thing, no matter what. My body is still getting acclimated to Fridays and Saturdays and Thursdays and 16 hours overnights. And it's just, after a while, sometimes I wake up thinking I'm supposed to like log in and get my little VMix, my little Wirecast, and I'm ready to go to call these games over in
It's
Thailand.
I mean, it's probably just nice that you don't have to actually take those flights out there. At least you could do this
Are you
remotely.
kidding
Can you
me?
imagine?
No, absolutely not. That might be next year because there's some there's a couple opportunities that are perhaps cooking, but we shall see, as we like to say. All right, I know. So you're going to fly out. You'll be covering March Madness,
The NCAA wrestling tournament. Yeah,
the
come on.
wrestling. Okay,
Yeah,
the
you know
wrestling.
me. Wrestling's up here, basketball, sorry to my colleagues at On 3. It's down here by
No,
comparison.
no, no, no. That's okay. No, no, that's why I know you're still going to have a little hand in it. All right, let's
Oh,
get
of
into
course,
a little.
of course. I mean, I'm on that AP poll every week at this point, and
Yeah.
updating the national title odds. I mean, I gotta stay on top of it all. I'm a Swiss Army knife over here.
You guys reported NCAA denying Ole Miss request for Trinidad Chambliss the eligibility waiver.
Mm.
I mean, is this the reconsideration? I should say this to me. I mean, it doesn't seem like a surprise, does it?
No, and the only surprise I would say, based on what we know about the NCAA, is that there's really no rules when it comes to this stuff. I think they just kind of pick and choose. Now, granted, he did play multiple years of college football. He played at the D2 level, and I think his sixth year was just so, hey, based on red shirts, injuries, D2 level too, we want to petition for this sixth year. But I was surprised that he was even going for it because, coming into Ole Miss is a transfer quarterback where, let's not forget, he wasn't even supposed to start this year. And I think everybody was chalking it up to, you know what, this kid was excelling at the D2 level. He's going to play for Lane Kiffin this year, but he's going to back up Austin Simmons for Ole Miss this year. And sure enough, this is your fifth and final year of college football. Then you'll take your chances at a pro career, maybe with some scout team tape, your D2 tape, maybe some recommendations from Lane Kiffin as well. So this is not surprising. I just think people are maybe a little bit more outraged about it that he didn't get it. If you did support him getting a sixth year because he was so good for Ole Miss. Again, he only got the starting job because Austin Simmons got hurt at the beginning of the year, and of course led Ole Miss to a great season this year, all the way to the college football playoff semifinals. So no, I'm not surprised here. He'll be probably a mid-round quarterback. I like him a lot, especially after that playoff run. He's very exciting. He can gun it down the field. He's very mobile. You can make a lot of things happen outside of the pocket. So it'll be interesting to see how it translates to the NFL. But no, at this point, I was not surprised that his battle did not go his way when it came to trying to fight for that sixth year.
Yeah, third time the NCAA has denied his quest to play in 2026. Did you hear about this linebacker, and I'm going to butcher his name, Tulapupu from Montana, that the NCAA granted him a ninth year of eligibility?
It's very similar to now his
He's-
name escapes me, but it was he was a Miami tight end. He played at Oregon at one point. He had like 8 years of eligibility, and no, I think that this might have just came down the wire for us, or maybe the other day. And again, it's Montana, so I think we kind of just skimmed over it.
But
But,
he's 30
but
years old. Here's the problem with
yeah,
it. They're giving him
I'm
basically,
pretty sure now that you mentioned the name, I think he started at USC.
he
I
did.
think he did, right?
He did. He debuted so apparently he was in high school when Micah Parsons was in high school.
That's
So he
absurd.
lost his yeah. This is so 2025 marked the second time in his career he was able to participate in a full slate of games. Okay. He started initially signed with USC in 2018.
Right.
He lost at least 5 years of his career due to an injury. He signed with the Trojans. I think it was like a 4-star athlete, right? Then
Mhm.
again, coming out of Matter Day, had foot surgery, sideline, suffered a knee injury, sideline, finally made his USC debut in 2022. And then again, another injury. I mean, he's been on the field 3 seasons in an 8 friggin' year span. I,
I
I
mean,
mean,
so what all I'm gonna say is now I don't agree with the ninth year. Believe me, I didn't agree with an eighth year. Hell, heck, I barely agree with seventh years, barring it, something disastrous. You know what I mean? But the fact that he missed that much time. Now, by the letter of the law, he's only played 3 varsity seasons. Now, he played 2 at USC, and he played a combined 23 games, okay? He played in Montana this year. Now he's going to go back to Montana, I believe, off the top of my head, and, play a ninth season. He's only played 3 varsity seasons, and the old adage is, or like what they try to tell you going into college, you have 5 years to play 4, right? You have 5
correct.
to play 4 varsity seasons, and they instituted that redshirt rule a couple of years ago, where if you are actually for football, it applies to pretty much every year as long as you don't use a red shirt. You can play in 4 games because it's always a 12-game regular season, barring any changes coming soon. You can play in 4 games and still redshirt that year. You won't burn a year of eligibility. Once you step foot on the field and play one snap in that 5th game, you have used that year. So
You're
if I was
correct.
let's just say, for instance, I played my true freshman year at Rutgers, and I played 10 games. Maybe I was dinged up a little bit, but okay, I used the year of eligibility. Maybe some guys come in, I stay at school, and then I want to, maybe the coaches are like, we want to utilize you, but we also want you to have more development. We want to preserve you because you're not ready for that next level yet. So I play in, let's say, 3 or 4 games my sophomore year, and then I preserve that red shirt. So my 3rd year of college football, I'm a redshirt sophomore. Now, it sounds simple enough on the surface, but then you factor in, and I know it's 2026 now, but I feel like we're still in that range of the COVID year, which I'm going to butcher his name too. I'll just call him, his first name Solomon, the Montana linebacker. Tulia Pupu, I think is how you say his name. So we'll just call him Solomon. He was also part of that recruiting class. I'm sorry, not the recruiting class, but when he goes in, which is unbelievable, by the way, when he's the same recruiting class as Micah Parsons, let's not forget the 2021 season. Now, 2020 was short. Now, people always kind of get the timeline a little
Yes,
butchered.
right.
2020 is when COVID hit, right? March of 2020, everything was shut down. Football had a shortened season in the fall of 2020. Okay, remember the FCS was pushed back to the spring of 2021, but the fall of 2021, that next season, that is considered the COVID. That's considered the COVID season by the redshirt rule because they gave all athletes during that 2021-22 academic year a free year, right? Or it might have been like 2020 going to 2021. See, now the timeline's even blurring with me. But don't forget, that was a free year for all athletes across the board. Basically, in the calendar year of 2021, that's a free year. So that tacks on to his red shirt, or his years of eligibility, which is kind of mind-boggling.
It stretches it out.
Right, and then you add in, he probably took I believe he took a regular red shirt, and then in addition to all the injuries he missed. So let's just say he had 2 season-ending injuries. That's what 2. He has the free year, and then he has a regular red shirt, and he's played 3 other seasons. Really, you're only at 8. So
30 years old.
I know it's absurd. Don't get me
Come
wrong,
on.
but like
All that, everything you're saying, if you were in a court right now stating your case, I would allow it. I would allow for
oh
continuance.
yeah.
Now I'm overruling.
And it's
30
funny,
fucking
but
years old.
based on my math right there, you play 3 you play 3 years, you miss 2 years to injury, you get a free year. I don't know. The math works out to like 8 years to
Checks
me.
out for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is why I was a journalism major. I didn't go to Rutgers for my brains. You know what I
Well,
mean?
hold on a second. Let's give credit where credit is due. You came on the air all football season long. You loved Indiana. You said Indiana was the team to beat, and you said Indiana was going to basically just roll through the college football playoffs. And we saw what they did in the national championship game. So I do give credit where
Oh, well,
credit is.
actually, yeah, we have not been together on this show, I
No,
think, since the
you've been ducking
semifinals. So
me.
yeah, a little overdue credit, which, I'll take that all day. Don't get me wrong. And yeah, they did. I mean, they absolutely floored Alabama, which we talked about. And then I think we were talking before they played Oregon in the Peach Bowl,
Yes.
dominated Oregon. I mean, I didn't think they were going to blow out Oregon. I thought they were going to handle Oregon the second time around because they saw them already. And generally, the rematches, could favor the team that lost the first time. But with the way Indiana was coached this year and with what Signetti did, and that roster was so loaded this year, I didn't expect a blowout, but I thought they were going to handle them. Now, granted, they were challenged by Miami. It was a really good national championship game, and Miami came within, a few plays of maybe knocking them off. Again, as we, I mean, how many times have we talk about this? Carson Beck game-ending interception in that game, and again, he'll get drafted. He definitely improved his stock playing in Miami this year. Because at one point, I think it was a couple years ago, we were talking about, is Carson Beck the future number 1 overall pick by the New York Giants? And all of a sudden, he has
well,
the
you
elbow
said
injury.
that. I would never even say that.
No. But let's we'll rewind and fast forward, saying the elbow injury and the turnovers dropped his draft stock. He transfers, so they're not even talking about him in the draft. But I mean, he's looked pretty good. Unfortunately, he still turns the ball over a little too much. He looks like a 3rd or 4th round pick. Someone's going to probably take him in one of those rounds. He'll be a project early on. I don't know if he's going to be a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL, but he improved just to get my Miami take out of the way. But Miami's here to stay most likely. Mario Cristobal already brought in Darian Mensah. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about that either. How about that little Duke transfer saga where where Duke was almost going to block his transfer somehow through the courts, but now he's at Miami, so Miami's going to reload for next year. But yes, thank you for my props on Indiana. Now, are they going to go 16-0 again next year? No. Are they going to win the Big Ten and be in the contention for it next year? Yeah, they're reloading too. I would imagine people are going to go with Ohio State, but I mean, I at least for me, Indiana is my favorite in the Big Ten again next year. So we're talking maybe some back-to-back in 2027.
New headphones. Who this? AKA Heat 12 Man, AKA Heisman, AKA Steeler Nation, AKA Duval, also affectionately known as Vince. Checking out Costco calling the Rutgers match this past weekend. Got to give him props. Very knowledgeable, well prepared, made a very boring sport sound interesting. But wait,
stop him right there. I appreciate the compliment, but the fact that you call wrestling boring when we look at college basketball in the NBA.
Oh, there it is. You fired him. Woke up the bear.
He's in. When it's a foul fest for the last when the final 45 seconds takes about a half hour in a foul fest. Get out of here. I like Rich. I like college basketball, and I might get crucified for this at work later on. I mean, I've already said this take before because I think college. I think the college
NBA.
I don't know about that. I can't get into either right now. The NBA is a disaster right now.
College basketball is 100% better than the NBA right now. The NBA is watered down.
It's definitely more intriguing. At least there's more fundamentals in college basketball.
We're talking about St. John's just friggin' beat UConn, and then they were in a dogfight in overtime.
What does that mean right now? It's going to give them a higher ranking and a better seed. What's that mean for March Madness? They can go out in the first round.
But no, but it's great drama. Yeah, the Petito Bowl. What are you talking about?
Of course, it's great drama. The NBA has drama every day. I don't have to like
it. Stop it. The NBA. What's the drama in the NBA? The Sixers lost by 50 to the Knicks.
The fights, tanking, it's all off.
That's the problem.
Actually, you know what? I'll give you credit for that. I'll give you credit that college basketball is better because the NBA's soap opera, drama, 24/7, 365 is everything that is not happening on the court. So
I can't believe you just poo-pooed college hoops. That's just sacrilegious.
I have always poo-pooed college hoops until March Madness because and unfortunately, I'm going to play myself here. But like college wrestling, which I obviously prefer all year round, because I also broadcast it and I did wrestle. The college wrestling regular season barely means anything too. It all matters are those last 3 days in March, and until they change that, that's the way it is. These winter sports are hinging on. Because college basketball, not too many games, but
that's not true.
It's not a once a week sport. This is why football's king.
Okay, but hold on a second. I hear what you're saying. I appreciate what you're saying, but I wholeheartedly disagree. We know what March Madness is. March Madness, it's must watch. It's high drama.
Oh, it's the best thing you'll see.
Right. But also the conference tournaments to allow some of these teams to put on their dancing shoes and go dancing to have the little Illinois State.
I didn't poo-poo the conference tournaments. I poo-pooed the regular season.
But the regular season does have meaning sometimes. It does because it is all about playoffs. It is seedings in the tournament. But I know what you're saying because we know death taxes, Duke making the Final Four, Duke in the East. I get it. Kentucky making a run, Louisville making a run, UConn making a run. I understand all that. 8-9 matchup. I get it.
I'm not even going to say, death taxes and Duke making the Final Four. Duke can get upset. You can get picked off in the second round. That's why March Madness is great. That's why the wrestling tournament is great because you never know where these upsets are going to come.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question. What's more fascinating to watch, March Madness or the CFP?
CFP.
No
I'm a
freaking
football. I'm a
way.
footballer. What are you asking me that for? I'm a football guy. Come on.
But that's my whole point. You can't even be objective. You can't. Your bias is coming out. I mean, I see the red right there. The whole friggin' screen is red. It's all Rutgers red.
Shirt's red, jersey's red. I think if I can't turn the camera, but I got like my soundproof wall is red and black right there with muffling the sound in here. Okay. In all seriousness, March Madness is more compelling because especially when you have what is it the first yeah, you have upsets. You're more inclined to have the upsets. The first 4 days where you have all the round of 64 games, all the round of 32 games. So basically, those first two rounds are you don't want to turn away from the TV because you have them all staggered. They're kind of all going on at the same time. That's the best time to watch college basketball. Then, yes, Sweet 16, Elite Eight, you're going to get better matchups. You're going to get more, you'll probably get higher quality play. Maybe you have
Yeah.
your little Cinderella run. By the time you get to the Final Four, again, I don't like the gap, but it's still the best drama in terms
I
of
mean, you
what
can't
college
say, hold
basketball
on,
can
you can't
offer.
say you don't like the gap. Look at the gap we had in the CFP. It's like
Oh,
defending
don't get me
26
wrong. I hate
Super
the
Bowl.
gap. The fact that it's going to be even later next year is absurd, even with the 12-team playoff. And no, it's bad. I have a lot of problems with the college football calendar,
Yeah,
but
I do want to ask you on the college football front. Uh, there's
just real
some
quick, don't get me wrong. I mean, I know I'll be at the wrestling tournament, and I'll be covering it nationally for On 3 and broadcasting for Rutgers, but don't get me wrong. I'm still paying attention to March Madness. I fill out my brackets every year. Come on now.
because you know some of your constituents and brethren from on three tune in, so you had to make that comment right there. My goodness, gutless. So listen, there is a
I know how my meals get on the table.
and well, that's smart as you should. I taught you well. Everyone believes it's a foregone conclusion that the Raiders are drafting Fernando Mendoza. And now there's some grumblings coming out in Raiderland that Brady might bypass that pick, basically not draft him in number one and try to lure Derek Carr out of retirement and a reunion with the Raiders. Now, let me ask you this. Is it foolish for the Raiders with the number one overall pick to pass up Mendoza?
At this point, yeah, because I mean, what are you going to do? Bring back Derek Carr and this guy retired after 2024 because he couldn't throw anymore. What?
Correct.
What? And that's not because his skill diminished. His shoulder was gone. I
Yeah.
mean, did we? I mean,
Apparently now he's got motion back.
I mean, this is an apples to oranges comparison, but did we not see Peyton Manning, who in
Noodle
some
arm.
in some respects you can make the argument is the best to ever play the position. Now, however you rate quarterbacks, but I mean, Peyton Manning is over the last, over the entire history of the NFL, which is over a century, he is arguably the smartest, the most intelligent, and the best to ever play that position. And he had a rocket arm too. Let's not forget that. That
No,
dude
but
could
he couldn't throw his last year.
he had a hose. And that final season, you saw it deteriorate throughout the year. The neck caught up, the shoulder caught up. Brock Osweiler has to win some games for them down the stretch. He made two great throws in the AFC Championship game and one great throw in the Super Bowl,
That's all
and
he
he was
needed.
carried by the defense.
Yeah,
Thank the Lord he got his second Super Bowl.
right,
Because,
right.
right.
But
But but you see that, and he's like, I mean, granted, I think he was a little bit older too, but he was like, I'm going out on top. There's no need for me to even try to fix it. I'm
sure.
done. Derek Carr.
Carr was shot.
Yeah, Derek Carr's been shot. I mean, arguably
Yeah.
he was shot in New Orleans while he was playing. The shoulder injury then caught up to him. He hasn't been the same. I can't see him being the same. I know he's only been out for a year. I get it, but if I'm
I
the
think it's
Raiders,
malpractice if they do that because they've got 100 million. They still have Crosby, even though he says he's never going to play another
right?
down. You still got Genty. You got Bowers. They can turn around fairly fast. I just think it's ludicrous talk. I
Because
did want to get your
and right, and what do you do with Derek Carr? If you bring in a veteran quarterback, you're trying to say this roster's built to win now and compete for the AFC West, which is not even close to being the case. This team has the number one overall pick for a reason because Pete Carroll turned this thing into a disaster. Now, granted, I'm not going to put all of it on Pete Carroll, but we saw what that product was for the Raiders in 2025. And I get there if there's smoke because Tom Brady likes Derek Carr or vice versa. Sure, there's smoke, but they'd be moronic not to take a
yeah, agree.
overall. You have a brand new head coach, Clint Kubiak. I mean, again,
I mean, that's a perfect fit. Why do you hire him? You hire him for a young quarterback.
right.
That you
And
can
I mean, I've always liked Sam Darnold, but let's look at it from maybe a more negative standpoint. Clint Kubiak turned Sam Darnold into a Super Bowl winning quarterback. You know who you could do that with the Heisman Trophy
Sam
winner?
Darnold won 14 games last year with Minnesota and
I
played
get it,
pretty well.
but what did Darnold have over the last 2 years that he never had in his career?
Well,
Great
you're
coaching.
talking to
Great coaching. Now, granted, he didn't
well,
start in San Fran, but he learned in the Shanahan
Shanahan,
system as a
yeah.
backup. He has Kevin O'Connell with Minnesota. He gets Clint Kubiak coming off where his confidence probably went through the roof after Minnesota. So he's like, "Oh yeah, if these things work for me, I know I can play at a high level." And he had a good season with Seattle this year. And heck, hit with a great defense, wins a Super Bowl, and we go from there. You don't think Clint Kubiak can do that with the Heisman Trophy winner who, let's not forget, people want to say Fernando Mendoza's a flash in the pan at Indiana. He was pretty good at Cal. Kurt Signetti went after him for a reason. Now the roster was loaded at Indiana, but Mendoza was good at Cal. Go back and watch him throw the football with the
Well,
Golden
it's
Bear.
it's a different quarterback class coming out this year. That's all. I mean, it really is. It's not. It's. I mean, think about it.
But he's
Simpson,
the only
right? I
one.
mean,
He's the only one you have to say to yourself, yes, that guy definitely number one overall pick. Everyone else,
eh.
you kind of back off a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Listen, that I will agree with. I mean, we don't know yet if he's going to be a generational quarterback, but
I
we
can't
also
call
know
that, but
if
he's worth it. He's worth the investment, I would
well,
say.
I'll tell you what, if the Raiders for some reason get goofy and decide to go in a different direction, the Jets got a franchise quarterback for the next 15 years.
Yeah, it is the Jets. Let's concede it
Look,
is
I
the
mean, you
Jets.
can't. I mean, I'm gift wrapping you the present. I'm handing it to you. All you got to do is friggin' unwrap it. That's it.
Do you trust Aaron Glenn? Who's the new offensive coordinator? Is it Frank Reich or is he just a play caller?
No, they brought in Frank Reich. No, I said this on the air and I got hammered. Aaron Glenn is done. Aaron Glenn, he has no chance to succeed because he's in over his head. They built a bad roster. They have a little bit of talent, but he was brought in defensively, and look what they did the last 5 or 6 games of the season. I think they brought in Frank Reich to kind of lessen the load a little bit, help him on the offensive side of the
Which
football.
makes sense.
But
But
here's the other thing.
isn't
You
it
know
funny
why
they
else
brought
they did it?
isn't it funny they bring in Aaron Glenn for his defensive prowess, yet
And they
they ended up
stink.
and one, they stunk, and two, they ended up trading their two best defensive players midseason this year anyway, and Sauce Gardner to the Colts and then Quentin
Yeah,
Williams to
well,
the Cowboys.
but look what happened. Well, look what happens with Gardner, though. I mean, it's unfortunate he gets
Right,
hurt,
right. I mean, I
but
agree the injuries
yeah.
caused him, he barely played down the stretch, but Quentin Williams was playing well for the Cowboys. I
No,
mean,
no, no.
Quentin
He was, but the thing I believe the reason they brought in Frank Wright is just in case it goes south early and they fire Glenn, they're going to insert Frank Wright. And to me, it's like
I
no
mean, at this
brainer.
point, he's like, we have a joke in On Three, and I'll credit my guy Andy Staples for this. He would tab Ed Orgeron as like he's a permanent interim coach. So like if your school fires somebody, you need an interim head coach, just go hire Ed Orgeron for 4 games, 6 games. Maybe he's an interim coach for a season. He'll fix you right away. I
Yeah,
feel like Frank Reich is that guy right now. And now I know Stanford wasn't any good this year, but he was the interim head coach over at Stanford because Andrew Luck trusted him. And I think they were 4-8 this year. But they turned in respectable results this year. Now it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows, but Frank Reich is that stabilizing presence you need on a sideline, in a locker room, in a coach's office. He's that type of guy. Now is he the same guy he was almost 10 years ago when he was coaching with the Eagles and they won the Super Bowl? Probably not, because he got in over his head with the Colts. Andrew Luck retired after 1 year, which was kind of a shock, obviously, after 1 year that Reich was there.
right, which was a big shock
there. So, it fell apart there, and it was a disaster in Carolina. But he's bounced back, here and there. And I would say, as a non-head coach, he's a guy that I would certainly want in my corner as an offensive coordinator to kind of take care of that side of the ball. Now, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, but that's another, that's probably a story for another day as we get closer to the draft or free agency, or if they trade for somebody at this point.
Who would you say everyone's waiting for the next Kubiak, Ben Johnson, McVay? From the college ranks, is there a coach that you're looking at, maybe 2 or 3 that you feel, okay, right now, if they were offered an NFL job, not only obviously they would take it, but let me just rephrase that. If they had an opportunity, they would be offered an NFL job right now. Like, is there 2 or 3 going in the next season where you're like, Rich, look at these 2 or 3 head coaches. They're going to be a bona fide hot coaching candidate in the NFL, because everyone's waiting for that next Johnson, McVay, Kubiak kind of coach, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if you're gonna necessarily get it right now because there's a it's weird because you do see some college coaches get sick of the college game right now if they're not at one of the upper tier institutions where they compete. Because now college football is essentially the NFL, just on a minor league level, but with less rules and guardrails, obviously. So that's why you saw a guy like Jeff Hafley. Now I'm using him as an example because he was a college head coach and he left for a coordinator job in the NFL a
Right,
couple years
right.
ago. When he left, but he left Boston College. You know, Boston College is competing in the ACC against the likes of a Clemson, a
Well,
Miami.
here you go, Jesse Minter.
Yeah, but Jesse Minter is another one where now he's an NFL head coach. I mean, I like Jesse Minter a lot. Now, granted, he was in the Harbaugh tree, but he was a
Correct.
coordinator at Michigan under Jim Harbaugh, and then he got the job. I believe it was first under John Harbaugh as the defensive coordinator. And I forget where he went now. I might be getting my timeline mixed up with Jesse Minter, but um, oh yeah, oh he went. So sorry, he went from Michigan as the D coordinator, and then
The
sorry,
Chargers.
he followed Jim to the
Yeah. Now,
Chargers.
yeah.
Yeah,
Now he's
now
with the
he's the head.
Ravens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I was thinking of
That's all right.
yeah. I'm getting across because the Harbaughs obviously pick from each other's trees, obviously. But Minter's one of those guys who's very interesting from the coordinator level. But don't forget he went from coordinator then to head coach. You know,
Right,
jumping
right,
levels.
right,
As
right,
far
right.
as yeah, and then Halfley was the example of head coach because he got sick of it at Boston College. When granted, I would be too in the NIL era. Good defensive coordinator for the Packers. We'll see how he does as the head coach of the Dolphins. Could be disastrous. Could be successful. Who the heck knows? Um, I saw the comment there. I know there's a lot of
Marcus Freeman.
yeah, I know there's a lot of buzz about Marcus Freeman. Now, I can't say just because he signed a contract extension, he's not going to be offered a job again next year. I think there were preliminary conversations, or at least the Giants showed interest this past cycle, and then he signed the new contract. Now, what's interesting, as I mentioned, these upper tier jobs for college football, the Dan Lannings at Oregon, or like I said, Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, maybe a Ryan Day at Ohio State.
You like Ryan Day. You're high on Ryan Day.
Right. Right. If it's those types of guys, look at where they're at. Ohio
Right.
State, Notre Dame, Oregon. They have money out the wazoo, right? They can recruit pretty much anybody they want. They have, by comparison to other schools, unlimited funds compared to anybody else.
Yep, yep.
If you were at a Michigan, now I'm not going to say Kyle Whittingham at his age now, mid 60s, is going to jump from Michigan to the NFL because he goes from Utah to Michigan. I feel like this is going to be the end of Whittingham's career here, where he'll finish out, 5 to 7 years if he's successful at Michigan, and he'll just retire. But if you're at one of those blue blood schools, or like a Steve Sarkisian at Texas, those guys are the ones where yeah, it's probably logical to target them, especially if they win with the big brand. They are highly successful. They know how to manage money with their college GM. Obviously Sarkisian's coaching Arch Manning, so that I'm sure that'll be attractive for somebody, or at least the thought of that. And I'm just purely speculating here, but with those guys, you have to convince them to say, hey, this is what the NFL can offer you that college
We
football
can.
can. Now, the
Right.
NFL only has 32 jobs, and that's the most elite class of head coaches, at least in terms of jobs. Like, there's only a few jobs, right? But with college football, at the Oregons, the Michigans, the Ohio States, Notre Dame, Texas, that's essentially the NFL without being the NFL. With the amount of money you have there, you have the SEC, the Big Ten exposure. We know how big the brand of Notre Dame is, despite what obviously you have said for years. But when you look at those guys, how talented they are, how much they win, yeah, if I'm an NFL franchise, I'm thinking, yeah, that would be attractive. The other name that always comes up is Lincoln Riley. Now the problem with Lincoln Riley is he doesn't get out of his own way, at least at the college level, because his defense is never fixed. Now, how does that translate to the NFL? Now, does it get easier in the NFL because you could hire a guy? I'll just use him as an example because he's staying in Philadelphia, but like a Vic Fangio type, a career defensive coordinator, a career
Mhm.
defensive mind. Does something like that work with Lincoln Riley if they end up poaching him, or not poaching him, but hiring him away from USC and bringing him to the NFL? He's still the guy that I would say in the end probably has the best chance to make that jump. I'm sure there's other coordinators in college that are going to work their way up the ladder really fast. But as far as going to the NFL, some of these big names have been thrown out there over the last couple of years. I just don't think they're going to go anywhere. Now they'll be targeted. Ryan Day has a NFL experience. He had a cup of coffee with the Eagles under Chip Kelly back in the day. And I think also the 49ers, he was on that staff too. But those guys, I mean, they're in such great spots now, especially a guy like Ryan Day, who now I know they kind of, you know, they were favored to repeat, or they had a good chance to
Yep,
repeat the champs, but the guy has a national championship under his belt now. He's got carte blanche for a long time.
sure, and that happens,
And he
and
got back over the Michigan hump by beating
yeah,
them this year.
yeah.
So when you look at Ryan Day, you're like, why would you leave Ohio State? If you're Marcus Freeman, why would you leave Notre Dame? Especially with Notre Dame not being in a conference and now the college football playoff rules.
And now they're ranked,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Going in,
As long as Notre Dame is a top 12 team in the
right.
country, they're gonna be in the dance every
Well,
year.
they're always going to have the money and the boosters because of
Right.
NBC, and they have the broadcasting rights,
Correct.
and they're the only college, that is hand in hand with a network, per se.
And
So you're right.
what's funny about what these NFL teams say, well, what can we offer these college head coaches that the colleges can't? It's just more money. You have to break the bank, and I don't think a franchise necessarily wants to
Here's
make a college head coach one of the highest paid NFL head coaches without coaching a single game in the NFL across all 32 salaries. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, but here's the other rub to that, right? And not to cut you off, you have more wiggle room in college in the pros.
oh
If
yeah,
you are a stud in college and I hire you in the pros, now let's just be honest and call for what it was.
mhm,
The Urban Meyers and the Sabins of the world, we knew it was never going to work
right.
in the pros, right? And Urban Meyer had a cup of coffee with Jacksonville. I think they got rid of him after 10, 11, 12 games. But
Mhm.
point is, if I hire you and I'm locking you in for college 3, 4, 5 years, I'm going to give you wiggle room. In the NFL, it's what have you done for me lately? You need to win now. And that's why we're seeing all these retreads. And oh, by the way, even coaches like a Harbaugh
Mhm.
that won a lot of games for a long time with
Mhm.
Baltimore, his shelf life ran out. I would be a little more weary. I see Jovan mentioned GJ Kinney from Texas State.
He is very interesting, and
Young guy. Yep.
one-time Andy Reid Eagles quarterback, by the
That's
way.
right.
I
That's
mean,
right. That's right.
GJ
That's right.
Kinney.
Yeah.
He is interesting, and he played quarterback for a while, and he's been at Texas State for
Young
a
guy,
handful of years.
37. Yep.
Yeah,
But
I mean, he's
you've
got
got
20.
wiggle room in college.
He's won a bowl game for 3 straight years. I
Yeah.
feel like a GJ Kinney will be a guy that eventually is going to move up to the Power 4 level from Texas State. Actually, I think didn't Texas State just get realigned somewhere at this point? I forget. I know they just moved into the FBS. I think they're going into the Sun Belt. Unless I'm. Oh, I'm sorry. The Pac. I knew.
Pac-12.
Yeah, the
Pac-12.
Pac-12. Yeah, they're going to be a new
Texas
Pac-12
State,
team
yeah.
this year.
The
So it's
Bobcats.
not the Pac-12 is not Power 4 and to make it Power 5 anymore, but
Not
it's
your armadillos like in the movie Unnecessary Roughness. Funny Mike says, I'm never leaving college to coach the Jets or the Browns. Yeah, I
which is
mean,
also true because some of these franchises are absolute disasters. And again, you look at you and going back to your point about you have to win now, and you don't have
yeah,
that 3 to 5 year window. It's starting to become like that in college too. I mean, some of these colleges, especially the big programs that haven't won for a bit, like Hugh Freeze was gone after 3 years, 3 4 years at this point. So like your shelf life at some of these bigger programs in the SEC or the Big Ten, more so the SEC, I would say, but the Big Ten's a little bit more patient of a conference, but. I mean, you're looking at some of these results. I mean, these coaches they pretty much have about 2.5 3 years to really get it going, and for them to give you an extension here. Obviously, Signetti is the outlier with what he did in Indiana, but I mean, if you're going to these these diehard blue blood programs, I mean, you have to win right away now in college. But these ads with the amount of money that's getting invested into the transfer portal, all the other NIL dealings as well, they're getting just as impatient as these NFL teams. So if you're going back to if you're a Marcus Freeman, Dan Lanning, or Ryan Day, just use those three as an example. If you're those guys, it's like, especially with how much they've won, and granted, Freeman and Lanning haven't won national titles. I gotta feel even with the "What have you done for me lately?" crowd, even in college football, they're like, I'm a lot safer at this
right.
institution than I am going to the NFL.
All right. I know you got a lot of broadcasting coming up. Are you still doing the pods, the local stuff on high school, or is that kind of died down a little bit now?
Because we're towards the end of basketball season, pods haven't been out since the previews, so but we will get into some high school baseball previews on a Cape Atlantic Live. We have the Cal basketball tournament going on right now, so we're going to end the season with that. Obviously, some high school wrestling as well when it comes to the South Jersey playoffs. We're going to follow Lower Cape May potential state title winner, Lower Cape May Regional in Group 2. As far as the broadcast schedule is concerned, I have Drexel all weekend. You can get that on Flow Wrestling. I have Rutgers on Monday on Big Ten Plus, and then, like I said, right into the high school basketball on Cape Atlantic Live, as well as the high school wrestling, and then eventually ScarletKnights.com for the NCAA wrestling tournament in mid-March. So it's going to be a very, very busy week. Also, NJ.com. I'll just throw it out there, too, for the team state finals and the wrestling postseason in New Jersey. So it's a very busy time of year for me, but I love the grind. I love just, hopping around over the next few weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And, again, mostly wrestling, so I'm very happy. But obviously, we got some postseason basketball in there, too, which is always fun.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, if the baby can't sleep, there's no reason why you can't lock into Warriors Thailand when I'm calling these games at 1 o'clock in the morning, right?
The good news is he's been sleeping on the regular for about 6-7 hours a night. So
all right,
I'll get my beauty sleep, but maybe I'll catch the replay if I start working out again at 6 in the morning.
Well, we got the semis, we got the finals, and after that, we have the Chiang Mai Open in March. Then we're going with the NBL. We got the Global Women's Basketball League coming in July, and then we've got no USBL, different realignment. That starts in March with Jersey Shore. So the Asia, the Thailand, the China, the 12, 13, 14-hour difference. Yeah, if you want to capture that on demand, I would recommend it. You can rewatch that at 8 a.m. But if you want to ever get up and be in the trenches with me at 1 o'clock in the morning, hey, man, I would welcome that.
I unfortunately get up every day at 8 a.m. on ESPN when I start my shift. So,
all right, brother. It was always good to catch up.
Wink over there.
Yeah, no. Trust me, it's not lost. Trust me,
it didn't go over your head, which is good.
It's not no. Trust me, it's not lost. All right, bro. I always appreciate you, and hopefully we'll get you back on another week or two, and we'll catch up. And best of luck with the wrestling and all the broadcasts, brother.
Absolutely, Rich. Appreciate your time as always.
All right, there you have it, my guy, Nick Costco. He's the best. He is the best. All right, let me squeeze in a couple comments in here. What do we got here? We got some NBA thoughts. We got James Harden. I'll get to him. 349. I'll get to Castellanos. I'll get to that. I mean, $100 million right down the drain. What a waste of a move by the Phillies. Sixers don't even show up. Jonathan Marshall coming up in 10. We're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, SR 1029 FM. The Game. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, excellent stuff from Costco. Jumping on board for a couple moments. Let me rip through some of these comments. Yeah, we'll get to a little Phil's as well. Money Mike chimes in. I bet Harden does think loyalty is overrated. He jumps ship so much looking for an easy ring. He does. It's utterly, that's why I'm saying, like, it's not about siding with the player or against the player, but it does open up the conversation of, we already know sports is a business. This is not breaking news. It's not. But when you have a player that has jumped from team to team to team, 5 teams in 16, 17 career years, and he's made 400 something odd $million, he's not starving, and he's forced his hand, he's forced his way out, okay, with some of these franchises. Then I kind of, when you're going to sit there and talk to me about loyalty, I don't know if I can take you serious. It's accurate, but I don't necessarily 100% agree with it. Nets trading for Harden ruined that team. They had a great roster before they traded for him. They only started for what, half a game? That was horrible. How many games were they on the floor? How many games were they on the floor? It did not work out. Listen, I'm going to talk to Jonathan Marshall about this in the 4 o'clock hour. It's getting to the point, though. I'm telling you right now, it's an unwatchable product. And I also think what's killing the NBA is a lot of these players are, quote, ring chasing. I think they are. Great handle, smooth operator chiming in. I bet if Harden could go back, he would have never left the Rockets. As soon as he left, he was never elite again. Put up good numbers. still an all-star, right? But as you get older, a little more wear and tear. James Harden is not the guy that's going to, go 18 of 36, right? He's not that guy. He's more like the 8 of 24. And to your point, yes, he is a Hall of Famer. Two things can be accurate. They can. James Harden, 100% shoo-in Hall of Famer. But James Harden, if he never, ever, ever wins a championship, and it's highly unlikely that he's ever going to win a championship, he's always going to be known as a choker in the big spot. It's funny too, right? He's widely regarded as one of the greatest shooting guards and scorers in NBA history in one hand, right? But then in the other hand, he's also one of the biggest choke artists. Every fourth quarter in a game 7 on the road, it doesn't matter. James Harden comes up small. You can't, it's a fact. So we got the Def Taxes Duke making the Final Four. If Def Taxes James Harden coming up small in the big spot. It's always been, that is his MO. And as great as a scorer, he was always turning over the basketball. And listen, when he signed that contract, it's like $120, that contract extension with the Rockets. Great player. Great player. Like, no one's ever going to dispute that. But man, I'll tell you, you go to those big spots. That game 6 against the Spurs is the game that always stands out. Always. It just 10 points, 2 of 11. He fouled out with like 4 minutes to go. It's just who he is. And that's not to say ultimately that you can be a great player, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can be a clutch player. It doesn't necessarily mean you're an all-time great. Like, he's an all-time great, but he's not clutch. And when you come out and you make the comment that he made, that is going to be frowned upon because you're talking about a player that has gone all over the place in 17 years. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And I get it. Not everyone is going to agree with that. Not everyone, I see I'm getting some pushback on X with that comment. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to make that comment, then let's put it in context. Let's put it in context. That's all I'm saying. The NBA right now is so watered down, it's friggin' unwatchable. It's just unwatchable. The product is not good. They need to scrap All-Star Weekend. They need to stop with the BS load management and figure out a way to get these players playing that are dealing with a bum friggin' shin. It's a disgrace. It really is. It's a disgrace. It is. There's no other way to cut it. Slice it or dice it. I think Jonathan Marshall, who I'm going to punch up. I don't know if he's got video games going on in the background. I don't know. He's got a different headset on. He's got I see a different camera view. I don't know. He looks like one of these guys playing in, what do we got here? Are we getting ready to board a train? Where are we going? Subway? What's up?
You like my new headphones, Q?
Yeah, I mean, all I hear is like noise in the background. You know me, man. I'm anal with that stuff. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
I'm in the library, actually. It should be pretty quiet in here. I'm in the library.
You have your own personal library, or you're literally at work?
No, I'm in the library. Like you can rent out your own office space in the library.
I hear cooing. I hear cooing. What do we got? Little hand games going. All right. So my guy Jonathan Marshall, kind enough to join me. By the way, 4 o'clock straight up. He does a great job with Marshall Time Podcast, SR 109 Game, AUDACY app. Yeah, I definitely hear music in the background.
Music should be quieting now. Give me 1 second.
No, because I'm even getting comments. People want to know where the music is coming from. I hear like do 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 do. I think we're good now. I think you're good now. Now I'm getting the comments. Everyone's saying, "Why am I getting on Jonathan?" I'm not getting on Jonathan. He's going to jump
We're
off.
good to go. We're good to go.
We're good to go. All I heard was do 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 do. All right.
Those were little baby lullabies coming from my phone.
No, all right. Well, hey, man. Yeah,
Can
you're
can you
doing
see
daddy.
me? Can you
Yeah, I
see
got
me,
you,
Q?
brother.
Because on my end it says
No,
I'm
you're
offline,
good.
but
You're
as
good.
long as
No,
you
we
can see
got
me,
you.
we're good.
You're
Okay.
good. You're good, brother. We're
This is
good.
all live. This is live. This is
Hey,
live.
this is what we do. Hey, welcome, right? Welcome to the madness. All right, we got you locked in. Your Sixers, bro. I mean, what? Let's get into them for a couple moments. Not even showing up last night. I get the whole Embiid not playing, but you get a Knicks squad. You're talking about a team that was going back to back overtime games, and they get waxed by what was it, 50 last night, 40 something odd points. I do want to get. What was your overall reaction when they traded McCain?
Well, after I get over the initial shock, right? I'm thinking, here's another young piece that showed promise, and once again, you ship them away. And not only do you ship them away, you send them to a team that just won the NBA championship, and
Right.
is going to find ways to utilize him and put him in the best spots. And lo and behold, a couple games in, him and Isaiah Joe had good games last night, by the way. Isaiah Joe, you guessed it, played for the Sixers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so all the talk entering this year when we saw what VJ Edgecombe was and what he could be was the excitement of these young guards, right? Maxey, Edgecombe, McCain, and Grimes, and how now all of a sudden the Sixers finally have a young group of guards in today's game. We know how important that is. And now you trade him away. But now I got to watch Kyle Lowry get minutes.
Which is horrible at this point.
Make it make sense. And this is the reason why you don't trade him McCain, because injuries happen. With the Sixers, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So what happens? Quentin Grimes couldn't play. Tyrese Maxey's playing a lot of minutes. What happens with his body? Can he withstand that toll? Right? Edgecombe is still a rookie. McCain, it seemed like he was starting to get his confidence back. And now you trade him to the Thunder for a first round pick that I don't know what that's going to turn into.
Well,
And
do
not
you
only
think
do
it
you
was,
trade
it was
McCain,
about the
but what
luxury tax? You think a lot of it had to do with the luxury tax? I mean, that's
at the end of the day, these are billionaires. I don't care what you're trying to do with your money. Like at the end of the day, do you want to win or no?
well, I think it's pretty evident the GM is taking cues from the owner that has absolutely no
I'm,
desire to see a winning product on the floor. He doesn't care
I'm
about
sorry.
the fan base,
I'm
let
sorry,
alone the
Josh.
players.
I'm sorry, Josh Harris, your newest toy, the Commanders. I don't know what I got going on, but I'm not in the business of worrying about billionaires and them trying to avoid the tax and save money. I'm not sorry. That's just not me, right? And so repeatedly, we talk about this, Q. Every year, they give this fan base false hope. Once again, Joel Embiid, who has been playing well lately, he even said it in the locker room. I hope we make moves to compete in the playoffs this year. That was the message. And what do? And so for this year, the rest of this season, I can't take this franchise serious anymore. I'm sorry, I can't. Like, there's a reason why I don't fully get on board, because we know what happens. Why do you trade a guy in Jared McCain who was, before the injury, was rookie of the year? And you
Well,
trade him to the Thunder.
yeah.
And you wonder why these franchises are complaining and trying to tank and try to build, like, because you don't know how to build a team. You make these foolish. I can't get upset at the Thunder. Sam Presti, oh, you're giving me McCain for what? For a first rounder? I'll take that. That's easy. It's
Listen, he's
foolish
played well.
moves.
Well, people were pushing back that he's a defensive liability. He's not that great of a shooter. I mean, look, the other night he had 7.7 minutes plus 11 on the floor. Like, he's a steady Eddie. He's a pro's pro. And now he's a perfect fit with a team that just won the championship. I guess the question is, everyone's now going to look at his numbers, but let's not act like this kid's a Hall of Famer. But he was a young enough player where I think he could ascend it to an all-star. It's human nature to see now what he's doing, because the move itself was potentially set up for a bigger move, and everyone thought a pipe dream that Giannis was on the horizon, and then Morey winds up doing nothing. That is why I think a lot of Sixers fans are beside themselves, because if you made the move to get under the tax to set up a bigger move and you didn't do anything and the trade deadline passes, this is why people look at the franchise and say it is what it is. It's an absolute joke of a franchise who, oh, by the way, decided let's honor the 2001 team that didn't win the championship, that got waxed in 5 games against the Lakers.
More two thoughts. More on the McCain thing, Q. I'm old enough to remember last year the hype surrounding McCain and the Sixers fan base. So the people doing total, the people who are sort of trying to forget what
Pushing the
McCain
goalpost.
was in the conversation. Like people were throwing out some names in comparison to Jared McCain. Let's not forget, like people forget quickly the conversation surrounding Jared McCain pre-injury. All of a sudden, he has an injury. He has to get his confidence back. He has to get his rhythm back. Basketball is a rhythm and confidence game. And so before he got traded, it seemed like, okay, he's starting to find his groove a little bit, right? And so the reality is, yes, he has his liabilities defensively, right? But there is a place for him on a contending team. The Thunder, who have a bunch of players, a bunch of guys who can play, but all of a sudden they have found a way to make it work with him, right? And who are the Thunder? A franchise that has won a championship. Who are the Sixers? A franchise that's struggling to get out of the second round. Who's right? Who's wrong? I'll take the Thunder.
Well, then, with all that being said, does the owner need to like? I believe Daryl Morey's a snake, but I also believe he's taking his cues from Josh Harris. Josh Harris is all about the bottom line, right? You mentioned he's more concerned with the new image, the branding with the logo of the Commanders. I know it rubs Philly fans the wrong way because the Eagles, the NFC East, Washington, whatever. But at the end of the day, money talks and the bullshit walks. So now he's dealing with that. He's not really in the forefront. So now the GM's got to take the cues from him. And when the GM basically says, we're good with our roster, we believe the roster can compete, that is a flat out lie. Or define competing. Do you want to be 6, 7, 8 seed? Do you want to get out of the second round? Do you believe you can contend in the Eastern Conference? You nailed it. Aside from Paul George, with the suspension for 25 games, you can't have Maxey playing, 40 plus minutes. You're going to run him into the ground, and you were starting to get a little bit, steady from Embiid and some of these role players, and you're bringing the fan base back. Then Paul George gets suspended for 25 games. Then you trade away McCain, and the sentiment was get under the luxury tax. You didn't make a corresponding move after. You got to rely on a 40-something-year-old, Lowry. You get rid of Gordon. I mean, these are not moves that are blowing you away that sit there and say you're going to compete with Cleveland, Detroit, Orlando, Boston, the Knicks in the Eastern Conference. So all that being said, is it now to the point where you need to fire the GM because the owner's not going to go anywhere? He's not going to sell the team. He's not.
If this team goes out of the first or second round, again, changes have to be made from top to bottom. And whatever you have in your mind, that's the change that has to be made.
Does that include the head coach?
Head coach, the franchise player, everything has to be on the table. Because at this point, what are we
Oh, you
doing?
say the franchise player. Hold on. Let's back up. You're talking Maxey.
No. Well, the Hooper, formerly known as the franchise player.
No, they're stuck with Embiid. That ship has sailed.
At the end of the day, Q, you got to figure out how do we get rid of Embiid at this point? If you're Xing out of the second round and Embiid is still on the roster, what are we doing? You're wasting your time and you're wasting his time.
Yeah.
At this point, it's not even about what you get in return. It's not about that. It's about letting go of this era of Sixers basketball and fully leaning into Edgecombe and Maxey. That's what it is. That's the reality of it. Because it's insanity. The same thing over and over and over again.
Do you think there's any point that Joel Embiid's probably sitting in the corner and thinking to himself, I just don't want to play with this. I don't want to play for this franchise anymore. I'm not going to listen. He had the knee, right? So obviously we know about the impact. He didn't play. They got absolutely just destroyed last night. You see the offense struggle without him, but we also know sometimes he can be a liability on the floor when he's not fully engaged and he's flipping and he's flopping and all this other stuff. They got steamrolled last night. Do you think he's saying to himself, yeah, this is why they need me, or I don't want to play for this franchise anymore. This is utterly ridiculous. He made the comments and then they made a move.
After that deadline, I wouldn't blame him, right? Because here's a guy who recently, like, once again, he's been playing well. Like, the body has been looking good. He's been looking the best he has in a long time. And you see Maxey coming into his own. You see Edgecombe, the promise that he's showing. some nice role players. Barlow coming into his own, showing some promise, right? Okay, we have a nice nucleus that can compete in an Eastern Conference where Detroit's still unproven. Boston is still Boston, but they don't have Tatum, so
Correct.
there's a major hole there, right?
Yeah.
The Knicks are competitive, but they can be got. So
My only concern with the Knicks is this: I don't know fourth quarter playoff time, late in
yeah,
the series, Cat and Brunson on the floor, defensive
right.
liability.
And
That's
that's
my
the
only
thing,
concern.
which leads to the moral of this conversation. The Eastern Conference, if you're in B, you're looking like, if I can get my body right, if I'm together, if we just make a couple tweaks at the deadline, we got a chance. But you do nothing. No, you traded away pieces, but you get nothing in return.
Mm,
That's my issue. You trade McCain, but you get a first round pick that can't help you this year. And
yeah.
I don't know if it's ever going to help you. And there
Javon,
was no plan. Like, what was the backup plan? You
well,
trade
that,
McCain, then what?
yeah, yeah. Well, I got a nice little thing in my email if you're curious. What did the Sixers send me? It was something about no fees. Because Maxey made the All Star game, no fees on tickets or something. So I got
Oh,
that
thanks.
if you want.
There you
Exactly.
go.
Jovan says McCain served a purpose on this team that they desperately needed. 3-point shooting. Now you're only guy off the bench that can shoot as Grimes. He's been inconsistent. Sixers just look off since the McCain trade. The
Yeah.
vibes are bad. Well, that's even role players have a place on teams. And when there's chemistry and synergy and you get rid of those players, yeah, um, the vibe is off. I do want to ask you about the league itself, the state of the NBA with the load management. The Lakers the other night pretty much resting everyone, right? And that was a marquee
Mhm.
game against San Antonio. Are we ever going to get to a point where the league will step in and almost like have a injury designation where, hey, you're only allowed max games missed if it's not like a major catastrophic, like twisted ankle, a bad shin, soreness, or obviously that's something that would never fly because we talk, collective bargaining agreements, and here we go. Like I just feel like the product is so watered down, and they want to push and market familiar faces. They're trying to market the NBA, its star power, and yet and pop. Look, San Antonio did this years ago with Parker and Duncan and Mano Ginobili and whatnot. But I feel as though what can you do? Like, what's the recourse here? Like, if I'm going to watch a game, if I'm going to go to a game and I got courtside seats, or if I'm spending a lot of money to drive to New York and go to Madison Square Garden, I don't want to be driving there and all of a sudden Cat's shut down or Brunson's not playing because they tweaked the finger. Like to me, I think this era of the NBA for the money they make, they're beyond friggin' soft. And if you're not playing, I'm not going and I'm not watching.
Yeah, I get what you're saying as far as having a limit, right? But it's kind of hard to. How do you enforce that? How do you tell a
I don't
team like
know.
how can we tell that that player's hurt, right? Because then we have the argument with the
Maybe
calf injuries,
maybe we have a bullshit meter where we can kind of tell.
right? But here's the other side of the argument, right? We notice anytime a guy has a calf injury now, what do we think
Well,
of? The Achilles. He's
Achilles.
automatically sitting out. So the argument is if my guy is showing an injury at a certain point, I don't want that to be a gateway injury to a major injury. You know what I mean? So to speak, right? And so how can we even enforce that type of policy? The reality is it comes down to the organization, right? Like, do you care about the fan base? Do you care about competing? The
But then with
players,
that being
the
said,
coaches,
how do you enforce it? How does JJ Redick go to LeBron and the rest of these guys and say, you got to play tonight, man, in San Antonio?
right? Well, another question then: who is making the final decision? Is it the medical staff? Is it the head coach, or is it the player?
Well,
What is the chain of command, right? You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like
No,
because it's gonna,
it's a fair point,
yeah,
but again, it's a
yeah,
fair point. It's a great point. In the
yeah.
Lakers case, it's got to be LeBron.
Of course, but LeBron at his age, obviously, he probably legit does need
Sure, you're
some
right.
low
You're right.
managing.
You're right.
But
I
for
just
younger guys, I'm not trying to hear it.
Yeah,
I'm not
no,
trying to hear
nor am I. And
it.
then you have James Harden's comments, and I think it
Yeah,
just stems from his time in Houston.
yeah,
The issues with Morey, obviously, it kind of flamed out everywhere he's gone. Let's just quite be honest, where he's talking about the loyalty is overrated. And at the end of the day, it's a business. I think on face value, that's an accurate statement.
True. It's
But
true.
but I can't take it as serious as I want to from a player that has made 400 plus million in his career and he's played on 5 teams, and everywhere he's gone, he has forced his way out. I don't care what anyone says about what just transpired with the Clippers. I know he wanted a contract extension, but that's another way of forcing your way out. You're not going to give it to me? Then let me go somewhere, trade me so I can have an opportunity to get that contract extension. So I felt he's right, but I'm kind of torn where, but it's still consider the source.
I'm definitely I'm right with you. I'm torn because right message, wrong messenger, right?
There you
Because
go. There you
James Harden,
go. There you go.
we know who you are. Anytime things get challenging, you don't get your way. We know what's coming down the line, right? We
Kidding me?
knew the situation in LA wasn't going to last, right? But on the flip side, I kind of loved it because the Giannis situation in Milwaukee, Giannis, what are we doing here? At least James Harden is honest with who he is. He realizes, look, I'm not loyal to any team. If I want to leave, I'm going to make it known, right? Instead of the story, drama, soap opera that is Giannis and the Bucks, I like the approach that James Harden takes, right?
So,
Let it be known.
but
I'd rather you, instead of being fake loyal, which I think a lot of these guys in the league are, at least James Harden is like, you know what? I'm not loyal to any team. I'd rather you be upfront.
He said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. A lot of guys are fake loyal. A lot of guys are fake loyal in the NBA. They are.
Well, a lot of people are fake loyal in life, right? But
true.
Sports definitely. And it's interesting because a lot of the commenters were like, man, we thought you would be a little more demonstrative about it. I really can't because I get exactly what he's saying. But ultimately, though, there's 2 sides to every story. It is a partnership. So if you don't want me here, I don't want to be here. But then again, I am under contract. See, the NBA lost its way, I believe, many, many years ago when players, they just started to hang out in the off season, and they would have these little, they would commiserate together. Hey, man, imagine if you're playing the 2, if you're playing the 4, imagine me and you in the backcourt. And then what do we get? The dream team scenario, right? Where players are now jumping ship and they're chasing rings. And people think it was like LeBron going to Miami. Remember, Karl Malone and Gary Payton were trying to chase a ring with the Lakers.
Yeah.
Right. So this is nothing new. So you add the watered down product, the Matador defense, the tanking, Nick Wright's unbelievably stupid comment about
it doesn't even make sense to me.
When I don't even I mentioned it yesterday, and you don't even want to know the response I got. You don't even want to know because they were trying to trigger me, and I wasn't triggered. I was laughing. I was like, it's just the dumbest thing. What makes you think, it's like shirts and skins, the whites and the blacks playing there. They're going to play harder and then hedging it by the European play. It's just dumb. What the NBA needs to do, I believe, is if you're complaining about load management and players don't want to play in the All-Star game, then scrap the whole weekend.
If it's to a point where you have to start wrecking your brain around different ideas to get these guys motivated to play, then something's wrong. We shouldn't have to motivate guys to play basketball on such a stage where fans want to come out and see their favorite players play on the same team.
And spend money.
Yeah.
Spend money and go to these games.
For me, honestly, it hurts to say this because the kid back in the day who fell in love with the league in the 90s and early, I loved All-Star Weekend. I loved it.
100%.
But from the Friday night to Saturday night to Sunday night, really, I don't see the place for it. Outside, I think the 3-point shooting contest still has a place, but outside of that, there really is no place for All-Star Weekend.
As a kid, you're watching the 3-point shooting contest. You're watching the dunk. I'm watching my guy Kenny Skywalker win it a couple of days after his father passed away, and then you're watching the NBA All-Star Game on Sunday. I'm watching it with my dad. I'm like, this is when the NBA was the NBA. You had the Tuesday and the Thursday night. You had the TNT, and I get it. We can't go back to that time, right? NFL on CBS, Pat and John. We can't go back to that time. I get it. Yeah. You can't unring the bell. But for the love of God, for someone that loves the sport, for calling games like I do, I'm starting to see now these leagues that I'm calling these games for, there's no Velcro. I mean, the ball's touching everyone for the wide open shot. And I think it's maybe the way these games are played overseas in various leagues. I watch the NBA, it's pick and roll iso ball. That's it. It's 1-on-3, 1-on-4. It's a watered down product. And I feel as though the commissioner pushes the global brand of basketball, having these recognizable faces, and yet these recognizable faces are taking nights off when you're trying to get young kids going to the games with their parents, and they have an opportunity to see some of these players, an SGA, a LeBron at this stage of his career, a Harden, a Maxey, an Embiid, a Brunson, a Cat, a Wemby. They have an opportunity to see these guys, Giannis, and they're sitting. I mean, that's horrible. To me, I would be turned off. Like, if you're not playing, I'm not watching. I'm not going to support.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that rub me the wrong way about the state of the game and the league. Even with what the league is doing with, I think I sent you the link the other day, the content creators, they're sitting to the All-Star week, and it's like these gimmicks that just ring hollow.
I don't like that.
It's all gimmicky. It's all about the brand. It's all about the money, the bag. And at a certain point, where's the motivation coming from these guys, right? Where you can get too comfortable, right? It takes a special.
It's like Super Bowl weekend. They send goofy reporters and influence, but that's where we're at. It's all about content creation, but still, I want to see good basketball. I want to see sound basketball.
Yeah. But it takes a special type of mentality to reach the top of your profession, making millions, and still have that same hunger and desire to compete, right? On a random Tuesday night against Utah, right? And so I think it's gotten to a point now where even the mid-level guys are making so much money now. It's like, what's the upside for me going out on a Tuesday night competing against the Utah Jazz or the Pacers, wherever the case may be, right? And so we got to question the hunger of these guys at a certain point, because they've lived a certain lifestyle for so long that they're comfortable, right? And if I sit out this game, I'm not missing a check. I'm not missing a meal. Like, I've worked my whole life to get to this point. I've grinded for so long. By the time I'm 30, it's a human nature to just say, I can take tonight off, right? I can take this All-Star game off, right?
I don't believe that. I believe it's the eras. I believe that.
But the eras are different because the money's not the same.
Well, okay, that's fine, but you should be more incentivized to play if you're making $100 million. Like, your incentive,
guaranteed contract though.
What's that?
Guaranteed money though. The incentives already.
I get what you're saying. It's like, well, I deserve to take a day off. I've earned the right to make that money. It's like chicken or the egg. I know exactly what you're saying, but that's where I just think a little differently. Like, I can't see a Jordan, a Bird, a Magic, an Isaiah, a Barkley.
Different. Like, well, Kobe was of that ilk. Kobe was of that ilk. AI, right? Like, we know the guys.
These guys are soft, and so the product is watered down because they just don't care.
Right.
They don't care. Like, I really wonder if they care about winning as much as those guys before them did, or are they more concerned about 8 of 26 and I got my 36 points? Mm-hmm. Or I can go on social media with a burner account and go back and forth and troll players. The Giannis thing, to me, he basically tried to bully himself out of Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. And I talked about this yesterday. So he has a partnership with, I believe it's pronounced Kashi or Kashai. It's like a futures market platform. Mm-hmm. It's basically a betting platform. So all this money was being moved when we heard all the trade rumors about Giannis going to Miami or the Knicks or Minnesota or whatever. And he's a partner in that. He's like a brand ambassador. How does the NBA not have a problem with that?
It's Giannis. Can't be touched. Let's keep it a buck.
You just saw with the betting scandal with Billups and Porter. And Rozier?
I I don't. Giannis has been a great player in the league, right? Off the court, no issues, right? But there are certain things that he's done recently and said recently or not said recently that's kind of makes me question things a little bit, right? And that situation right there, you have to look at it with a certain light.
Yeah,
And but he is a media darling. He's a league darling, and we know who they are. And
sure.
when it comes to those guys, the
You
treatment is a
step
little
past it.
different.
Yeah,
The treatment, because if this was Joel Embiid behaving like Giannis has been behaving like, do I want to go? I'm not sure where these rumors are. How would the conversation with Joel Embiid?
hmm
We know we would be tearing him apart.
yeah.
But because
Uh,
it's Giannis, like, come
Different.
on.
Yeah. Money Mike chimes in. Who's your favorite to come out of the East? I don't know if Detroit has the staying power. They kind of remind me of Cleveland last year when they got in the playoffs. Put your big boy pants on. I will be objective. I think the Knicks, I mean, that's why I wanted the Knicks to make a move for Green, believe it or not, because defensively
Yeah.
with him, OG, some of these guys on the floor would have been a ridiculous starting five defensive unit. I'm not going to sit here and say the Knicks because I think there's some holes to the Knicks. Boston's playing some great basketball, and Boston doesn't even have Tatum, which is really impressive. So
They
right
don't
now,
have him yet.
yeah,
He could come back, honestly.
yeah, I mean that's you got to be careful with that though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Who
That is
who is
true.
the front runner right now in the East?
Wow. Man. Honestly,
You like Detroit.
I want to say Detroit, but I haven't seen it being done in the playoffs yet. I haven't seen them take those steps, right? On the surface, and we've had this talk about the Cavaliers.
I knew
Can I
you were going
buy
to
in?
say that. I
But
knew you
but
were
but
going to say the
can I buy
Cavaliers.
into them? Can I buy into them? I don't know. But I do like the addition of Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. Forget about James Harden. I like the defensively what Keon Ellis brings to the table,
Well,
right? That is an element.
everything runs through Mitchell. Everything runs through
Right.
Mitchell.
Right, but having Keon Ellis, Dennis Schroeder, having those guys to provide some energy and a defensive presence, I think does improve. I feel like the Cavs did get better by adding those two pieces. James Harden, Darius Garland. Neither guy is going to play defense, so that to me is like whatever. I
Well, the
do
move,
think James Harden's a better facilitator, though. I do think
right,
that,
and look, we know about his playoff failures, but
of course.
say game 5, 6, 7, and Harden actually gives you 18 points, 6 of
Right?
8, and a couple threes, and you win the game. You got a return
Yeah,
on your investment right there. If you're a
yeah.
team like Cleveland,
So on paper, why can't Cleveland beat a Detroit in a series? Why can't they beat a New York in a series? And so the question is, which team do you believe in the most?
uh,
That
I,
that that's what it comes down. Which team do you buy in mentally to actually go through a play? Because it's a grind to go through that from first round to conference championship.
sure,
It's a
sure,
long grind. So
yeah.
which team do you trust when it comes to experience? Guys who can show up in big moments. Which team do you trust in those moments?
For,
Out of Cleveland, Detroit, and New York, who do you trust? Or Boston?
well, Boston with a healthy Tatum, different. I've seen the body of work. Cleveland's a
Obviously, right?
young team. Detroit is still a young team. My Knicks, if Tatum was healthy, I would say Boston because I've seen the body of work.
Right.
Detroit and Cleveland, I saw what Cleveland did regular season and then in the
Right.
playoffs last year. Maybe Detroit is last year's Cleveland. I don't know. And I'm trying to be
Right.
objective with the Knicks. I just think
Yeah.
the Knicks are going to be in trouble. A lot of minutes with these guys. I can't trust Cat. Brunson has an off game or two. Offensively, they're going to be in trouble.
To me, the way that Detroit plays, their physical style defensively, to me, that is the thing that's going to give them such a huge edge. Our team's going to be ready for that level of physicality and defense play. But also, outside of Cade Cunningham and Jalen Doran, who's going to be that guy in key moments? If those guys are off, who's going to be that third guy that you can rely on?
Well,
Is it Tobias Harris?
Well, statistically, you're talking about Detroit's defense. Statistically, they give up 109. Boston gives up 108.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do want to ask you, and again, 4:30 East Coast on a Thursday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here, Coastal Sports Digital Network, C2C Radio, and of course, part of the AUDACY app. Jonathan Marshall, kind enough to join us. Of course, Jonathan does a great job. Him and his brother, Marshall Time Pod. check him out on social media, and of course, part of SR 1029 FM, the game. I wanted to ask you, Western Conference. I mean, obviously, we're seeing what San Antonio and OKC is doing. I think the Golden State Warriors are done. I think any type of run the Steph Curry led Golden State Warriors, I think it's over with. I do. Now, I know they struggled the other night against San Antonio. I know they beat the Grizzlies, but they just are such an inconsistent team. They have some bad matchups that are looming for them. They've dropped, I think, 5 of 7, 7 of 8. I don't like the makeup. I thought they should have tried it to trade Draymond Green. And I know they had the issues, obviously, with Butler. Curry's getting older. I watch Warriors right now. Think about it. He's been banged up as well. He's dealing with some injuries. I just don't like the makeup of this team right now. And I'm going to tell you this. I think when it's all said and done, they're going to be on the outside looking in. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and if they make the play in, does it even matter?
No, I feel like this is it. I feel like the run. I think any type of Curry led, here we go. I think it's over for Golden State.
No, it's over. And I was out on them before the year. I know some people were kind of high on them with Jimmy Butler, Steph, and Draymond. But if we do our history and we look back, how many championship teams relied on 3 guys? Your top 3 guys are in their mid-30s. It's not happening. I think late 20s to early 30s that's that sweet spot where those guys are in their prime, right? OKC, the Celtics. Like there's a sweet spot that you reach, and that's where you have to capitalize. And they did that with Steph, Draymond, and Clay and KD. They capitalized on that sweet spot.
I feel there's issues with the players though. I just feel as though the dynamic, there's something off with this team.
The roster's not that good, Q. Sometimes it's just like.
Well, that's true. Sometimes the answer is it's the most simple.
Pull up the roster. I mean, D'Anthony Melton, Moses Moody, Santos, Pat Spencer, who's he's been hooping, Pozinski, Al Horford, like solid guys. But these aren't names ringing a bell when you talk about the Denver Nuggets, the Houston Rockets, the Thunder, the Spurs. They can't compete. And when you're relying on Steph Curry to be your best player at his age.
And the whole Kuminga issue.
They never, like Steve Kerr didn't want him, and he didn't play.
Yeah, it was
the reality
weird.
of it.
Yeah, it was.
So look, the Warriors in a danger zone because yes, we know that Steph and the Draymond era it's coming to an end, but there's no young promising prospect that you have to look forward to.
That's why I told you last year. Why if I was Steph Curry. As painful as it would have been, I would have asked to be dealt.
That's a real loyal guy, Steph. He's a real loyal guy, Steph.
He ain't no James Harden. I get you.
He's really loyal. He's no Giannis either. There's no questioning where Steph stands.
No. And I know he's got that. Look, he's Steph Curry is an all-time great. He's got that no trade clause. He's a franchise cornerstone. I get it. But man, I'm telling you. You signed that contract for $200 million in 2017. I think he actually. Now, I don't know if he requested one. Kind of like the LeBron James clause. The no, like I don't know. Basically, he can veto a trade to any team, another team, I should say, but. They're paying him $200 million. That was a contract extension in 2017, and basically now their hand is kind of tied, right? So he demanded the same clause LeBron had with the Lakers when he signed that big deal, but they said absolutely not. I mean, they basically turned it down, it's a rare contract clause in an NBA deal.
It is rare, but if you're the Warriors, that's Steph Curry. Like. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
If this is what he's asking for, after everything that he's done for that franchise, and he's still, even in his later years, he's still doing what he can to carry. Like they got that championship over Boston, like at a point in his career where most small guards fall off. And so Steph is hats off to him because we haven't seen, can you recall a guard of his size at his age still doing what he's been able to do over the last couple of years, right? Like 6'3" and under. I can't recall.
when you look at the state of the NBA,
Mhm.
and kind of coming back to Golden State, we know it's Matador defense. It's Olay. The game is much more wide open. Do you believe a lot of that stems from when Golden State was just beginning their ascend? The Splash Brothers, they can be down 10, and then all of a sudden you blink and they nail, 5 of 6 from beyond the arc. They take the lead and then they blow you out. Like that's kind of where the game started to evolve. A lot more wide open perimeter shooting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, once you see one team unlocking a different way of playing, other teams will try to mimic that, not only in their style of play, but how they build their teams. They'll try to find a 6'10" do everything point guard, or they try to mimic the same type of personnel, but you can't do that because there's only one Steph, there's only one KD. Like
Right.
everybody trying to mimic certain styles or certain drafts, certain prototypes. There's only one of certain guys, and Steph and KD are those guys. There's only one of them, so you can't mimic a system when you can't mimic the talent.
Right.
And so you have to find your own way. And I love what OKC has done with how they built their roster, and we're seeing that it's working. Other teams do not try to mimic that. What you should mimic, though, is their philosophy on evaluating talent. No matter where you are in the draft, you can draft solid talent. And once you draft that talent, building around them, whether it's from second round pieces, undrafted gems, making savvy trades, savvy free agent signings, that's what you mimic. That stands the test of time. Player evaluation, giving those guys an open space, a healthy space environment for development and confidence, and building out your roster from there. That will always stand the test of time,
Yeah,
every time.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's a great take. You know, I'm looking second half. Next week we'll talk a little more college, but it's interesting. I saw that a couple of insiders reporting that Seattle and Vegas are the front runners for expansion teams. So I heard a little nugget that Dallas. There is thought that they might. I'm not saying in today, tomorrow, but there was some rumblings that, relocate Dallas, move that franchise. I think it would be an uproar. I mean, obviously we've seen what transpired, but Seattle's a great venue. Vegas, if you're thinking about that right away, it's going to open up Pandora's box a lot more when we're talking about the gambling element. Do you see expansion on the horizon in the NBA?
Yeah, I think amongst really hardcore NBA fans, Seattle was always going to get an NBA team back. I think the Sonics were such a huge thing for that city, but also just a cultural thing, right? The Supersonics with Gary Payton and Sean Kemp, the Rain Man, right? Like for those of a certain age, we can recall when Kevin Durant was with the Sonics. You know what I mean?
Nate
Like,
McMillan, right? Nate
yeah, yeah,
McMillan.
yeah. And so it just feels right to have basketball in Seattle. And so I'm hoping, and I would be excited for that fan base to get that team back. Vegas makes sense because I mean, come on, it just makes sense.
Sure.
Why not? Right?
Yeah, this is
It's
true.
just it just makes they already have the team in the WNBA out there. Like,
Yeah.
come on,
Yeah.
it's too easy, Q. Come on, it's too easy.
When are you dropping another pod? When are you going to be in the lab?
I hope closer to March Madness. I hope to really
Okay.
lock in for March Madness, talk some college hoops, and look forward to the playoffs.
All right, we'll start diving into a little college basketball as
Yeah.
well. But all right, brother. I know I kept you a little longer. Always appreciate you, and keep up the great work, man. I always appreciate the insight and look at you making time. Slipping a little one to the side. Keep a watchful eye.
Look, this is why I get paid the big bucks,
Hey,
Q.
man, that's why you're
Right.
always appreciated more than you know. All right, appreciate you, brother.
All right, Q.
All right. There you have it. My guy, Jonathan Marshall. He'll join me next week. We'll talk a little more college hoops. March Madness right around the corner. Got a lot of comments coming in. Also, the news, baseball wise, the Phillies parting ways with Castellanos. We'll get into that. We'll get into your comments and we'll clean things up. We'll get out of here on Thursday. All right, 437, Thursday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. Get social with me at Rich Q on Q, YouTube, Rumble, Kicks, and of course, SR 1029 FM, the game. So you got the Harden comments coming in. We were talking about the load management, the tanking in the NBA, kind of watered down the product. We mentioned a little bit with the Phillies and Nick Castellanos, which, it's not shocking news. And I guess, he had to pen a note to the Phillies fans, and he said, bringing beer into the dugout, criticizing Phillies manager Rob Thompson led to the 2025 benching. Well, again, on your way out the door, let's post a couple handwritten notes thanking the Philly staff, the players, the members of the organization supported in 4 years with the club. It was a horrible move by the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, he was a bust. I'm sorry. He was an absolute bust. He didn't give the Phillies what they needed. He just didn't. And if you go back, again, the game in question was that game against the Marlins. The Phillies are up 3-1, bottom of the eighth, and Castellanos has been just a piss poor player. His metrics are horrible throughout the course of his career. Remember, he was removed from that game for Johan Rojas, who's a very good defensive player. He took issue with it. He grew up in Florida. He had friends and family at the game. Oh, well. And then he was absent from the Phillies lineup, and he remained with the Phillies the rest of the season. His numbers were horrible. 250, 294, 400, 17 home runs. Horrible. Then he got removed in August in a game, and he got pissed off at the manager. I mean, I think it was pretty obvious when they signed Garcia to a 1-year, $10 million contract that Castellanos was done. But for the money that they paid him, no. It was an absolute debacle of a move by the Philadelphia Phillies. It really was. That was a bad signing. It was. It was a bad signing. And it bit him in the ass. It bit him in the ass. Look, in baseball, you think you can get away with certain things? He struggled last year. He had a negative value with his WAR, and his defense stinks. And then you had all the clubhouse issues. You have everyone was saying this guy's a clubhouse headache. And they couldn't move him with that salary. They couldn't find a trade partner, so it only made sense. I mean, is this an iconic goodbye here, right? 4 seasons? We call that a cup of coffee in the business. He's not a bad player, but he's not a player that's worth 18, 19, 20 million dollars a year. And like I said, the narrative, the clubhouse issue, not good. Yeah, that's great. You handwrite a note and here we go. But come on, man. I mean, the beer incident couldn't have helped, right? I mean, that's pretty much, that comes into play. Not a good thing, not a good look. Bringing the beer into the dugout, right? But listen, this team with this makeup, I feel as though we're having the same conversation about the Phillies with pitchers and catchers. It's like, okay, this era of Phillies baseball, like, what is it at the end of the day? Because Bryce Harper hasn't won anything with the Philadelphia Phillies. He just hasn't. You look at this group, this core, right? And everyone was talking about running it back, run it back. I mean, all you having is these postseason failures. And it's not good. And I'm sure a team's going to take a flyer on him. I can see San Diego. I can see Cincinnati. I can see Texas probably signing him. But I just never thought he was a good fit when, they made the move. I just never thought it was a good fit. And look, you're bringing beer into the dugout. That's goofy stuff, right? It's just, it's not a good look, man. This guy's 34 and his numbers did not match $100 million 5 years. It just didn't. But that's baseball for you, right? All right, 441. Got to start wrapping it up on a Thursday edition of On Cue. Good stuff from Nick Costco. Appreciate him greatly jumping on board. Of course, also Jonathan Marshall. We're on the AUDACY app, SR 1029 FM, the game. Football Friday tomorrow. We'll kind of put a bow on everything that happened in the NFL. Don't forget, as always, get social with me. Very easy to do at Rich Q on X, TikTok, IG. And of course, if you like the content, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You guys are always fantastic. I appreciate you guys keeping us locked in. Back in the saddle on a Thursday. And what we'll do is we'll take one final time out. We'll give you a little breather. We'll close things out. We'll be back in 30. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's get to some comments while we got a couple minutes to play with on this Thursday. Nick and Wallet for Chimes in Q. Excellent point on James Harden. Great player, Hall of Fame player, never a clutch player. Can you think of other players like a Harden that have number one chips? Well, I think it's an interesting point you bring up. I think you have this conversation in the NFL a little more with some of these great quarterbacks. Like for me, right now, it's Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. You're talking about two Hall of Fame or ascending, trending towards being Hall of Fame quarterbacks that, Lamar Jackson get to an AFC championship first. And Josh Allen, for as great as Josh Allen is, Josh Allen needs to get to a Super Bowl. Now, to be fair, he also left the field in Kansas City with the lead up 13 with 13 seconds to go. But Josh Allen also, to define his career and to kind of put a stamp on his career, Josh Allen got to get to a Super Bowl. You got to win it. That's why I thought this season, the way it broke, it was right there for the Buffalo Bills. NBA, it's a little different. There are some guys that have great careers, and then eventually they just tag on to other teams and they win a ring. I mean, we've seen that happen before. There's nothing new. I mean, there's really, we've seen it. Jody chimes in. Q, how do you think they're going to be able to fix All-Star Weekend? They're not. They're not. That's the problem with the NBA. They're never going to be able to fix All-Star Weekend. They're not. They need to just scrap it. Just scrap it. What's the incentive? These players make a substantial amount of money. So I'm not interested in three-point shooting. Forget about the dunk contest, the rising stars, the U.S. versus the world. I don't care about that stuff anymore. Gabe chimes in. Q, excellent thoughts on the NBA and the tanking. Enjoyed your segment with Jonathan Marshall. Think about this for a minute. You guys, if you're really bringing it up, wasted years of Embiid and Maxey, hired two horrible head coaches, all about ducks in the luxury tax every single year. You don't trade Tobias Harris, and now you signed a wash player to a max. When will they fire Morey? No idea. I don't know if they will. I honestly, Jonathan believes if it goes south again and they don't get out of the second round, that's wholesale changes. Now, does that also mean you get rid of the head coach? I mean, now you're talking, you're recirculating head coaches left and right. Isn't that what you want to avoid doing? We talk about it in the NFL all the time. Like, how many times can you fire and hire head coaches? I mean, you can do it ad nauseum, but, think about what they've done over the last 15 years. Doug Collins, Brown, Rivers, and now you got Nurse. And this is Nick Nurse's third season. Third season right now for Nick Nurse. And Maxi's a bona fide franchise player and a stud. So are you going to give him another season? I mean, but you also got to remember too, they went through, the Cheeks, the DeLeo, remember Collins, Brett Brown was not a good head coach. I'm sorry. I don't know. Brett Brown just, ingratiated himself to the franchise in the front office. Brett Brown had 2 winning seasons as Sixers head coach. And oh, by the way, it was the last 2 seasons or 3 seasons, I should say, of his tenure there. They had the back-to-back 52-51 wins, and then they went 43-30, and then they got rid of him. They hired Doc Rivers. And even with Doc, they were still never able to get out of the second round. So you think firing the GM is going to remedy that? Maybe. Perhaps wholesale changes. All right, 447. Got to wrap it up. As I mentioned, back in the saddle tomorrow. John Bueller from Fansided. Good stuff. You guys checking us out on the YouTube channel. Keep it locked in. Like, comment, subscribe to my channel. Also get connected with us at Rich Q on QNX, social media, SR1029 FM The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network. You guys have a wonderful Sports Thursday. Again, appreciate Nick Costco and Jonathan Marshall jumping on board. We'll be back in the saddle mañana, right around 4 o'clock. John Bueller in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll mix in a lot more NBA, and we'll start to get into a little baseball as well with pitchers and catchers. We'll talk a little Phils, Mets, and Yankees, and we'll do that on a Friday. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.